Where trucks like the Tacha T813 or the Maz 543, aka the Mastodon, are widely popular and well-documented trucks, the Ural 43223 that the Voron D is based off of feels relatively overlooked and doesn't have nearly the cult following. The same could be said for it in-game as well. Not for lack of capability, but mostly because it's a starter truck that often gets overlooked and pushed to the wayside once more exciting options become unlocked. In this video, I'll be giving you a review of the Voron D, and by extension the Voron AE, as well as going over some facts and history about their real-world counterparts, while taking them on a journey to complete some contracts, so we can see how the trucks in-game stack up to the real thing, and helping you decide if it's something you should have in your fleet. A group of researchers have been stationed out here for a while. With the recent rough weather, getting to the rail yard to pick up their supplies has been challenging. I'm gonna head over there and pick up the supplies for them. As repayment, they said I could borrow the recon unit they ordered for a while too. I can't talk about the Voron D without first talking about the Voron AE, so I'm going to drive it to the rail yard just to get a feel for it, because I've actually never used this truck before. The Voron AE is based off of the 1977 Ural 4320 with some minor changes, mainly the headlights and the grille. The 4320, or 4320, is a general-purpose 6x6 truck produced for the Russian Army and later general civilian use. The 4320 was designed simply to be an off-road capable troop, cargo, and trailer transporter, with many different configurations to fit the Army's needs. From longer wheelbase models to support cranes and heavier cargo, to short wheelbase 4x4 versions for lighter loads and easier maneuverability. It can be seen with the typical canvas-covered bed, an armored machine gun platform, mobile rocket platforms, and whatever this is. It looks like it has tanks on the back, and this arm with all the hoses running to it would swing out, and I assume dispense either water or pesticides, because to me it looks like something you would see on farm equipment. But the olive green paint doesn't lead me to believe it's a farm truck. If you know what this is, please let me know, because I'm curious. The 4320 either came with an 11.2-liter 180 horsepower turbo diesel V6, or a 14.9-liter 240 horsepower diesel V8 and a 5-speed transmission. For civilian use, they were outfitted as fire trucks, truck buses, armored police vans, and general-purpose off-road haulers. A lot of videos of civilian 4320s show them being used as logging trucks. I hope this mess at the rail yard gets picked up soon. Trains arrive much more often than the cargo ships do, and without it operational, the local population is in danger of having resources get more scarce than they already are. The drive to the rail yard was easy. At this point I've driven that trail so much I have it memorized. I got loaded up with the supplies and had trouble locating the exploration trailer until I realized it was buried behind these train cars. Thankfully, I had my Azov 6.4 parked nearby with a crane, and just used it to pluck this trailer from over the wall instead. From there, I just used the frozen lake to get back to the garage in a hurry. Once I got back, I traded the cargo and hopped in the Voron D to go pick up the cabins from the camps, and deliver it and those supplies I just grabbed with the AE to the 2 research camps here in Lake Kovd. Both are far up north, and one is past even where I scouted with the Tartarin. The Voron AE had the easy job. It did fine. It's a pretty basic 6x6 truck. It has the standard fare for add-ons, but you can't equip the crane, sideboard bed, and haul a trailer, which is mostly why I'm not using it for the task ahead. The always-on all-wheel drive and diff lock do make it easy to drive, since you don't have to manage the gears, and it felt perfectly capable. It's also quite fast, but maybe that's just me having spent the last few hours driving only the Tartarin and the 813. The Voron D and the Voron AE are functionally nearly identical. The only differences are that the Voron D can do the crane, bed, and trailer combo. It has a unique gearbox that can't be switched out, and it consumes more fuel. So really choosing one over the other really just boils down to the specifics of each task you're taking it to do. I need the crane, bed, and trailer combo to take care of this task efficiently, so I'm going to see exactly how much of a detriment its increased fuel consumption is on this route. In researching the Voron D, I've learned that I really despise how Russian companies, or maybe just in this case Ural, name their models. It's been a confusing few hours, but I finally figured it out. Although the headlights, grille, and side windows are different, the Voron D 53233 is based on Ural's 1987 to 1993 Range the Land line of trucks, which were designed to be the next generation of the 4320, also being called the 4322. I talked about the Voron AE and the 4320 earlier because the 4322 sits on the same chassis and was seen as an improvement over the 4320. They were developed in partnership with Kamaz helping build the cab as well as providing some of the 10.5-liter diesel V10s that were put in some models. I used the frozen lake to quickly get to the first research camp. Smooth sailing so far. The sheds look like they're on sleds, like they could be dragged, but I'm going through some pretty tough terrain and water, so I'd rather just load them. The Azov 6.4 is still parked at the rail yard, so I brought it over to load it up for us. But I didn't realize they were intended to be dragged. They don't fit in the sideboard trailer, and I can't pack them. And I also don't know why I didn't just bring a flatbed, but you know what? Even if it looks sloppy, I'll get it done. And if it falls out, I'll just use the crane on the Voron to get it upright and just drag it. I did forget how annoying it is to try and get across the lake without falling through the ice. I misjudged a patch of ice and got pretty stuck, but thankfully I have the Step 310 on the other side of the lake as a mobile refueling station, and I used it to winch the Voron out. Everyone's chipping in for this job today. There were multiple trucks in the Range the Land line, with minor or significant changes. The 4322 is where this line starts. It obviously redesigned the cabin, came equipped with the 10.9-liter 210 horsepower diesel V8, a tire pressurization system, a 68-gallon fuel tank, and a pneumatic automatic transmission. It had a longer cargo bed, which was able to accommodate 33 troops to the 4320's 28. There were plenty of civilian 4322s that were produced. The 4422-3 was a long wheelbase model with a fifth wheel plate. The 5522-3 was a heavy-duty agricultural dump truck, and the 5522-4 was an all-wheel drive heavy-duty dump truck. That's one shed and one box of supplies dropped off to this camp. So far, the Voron D is performing great. We haven't really hit any major hurdles yet. It's easy to drive, and I feel confident taking it everywhere, even with my bit of unstable cargo that I had to tether the crane to up this rocky slope. The next camp is a bit of a ways away, and I haven't scouted up there yet, so I don't know my route. I'm a bit nervous. The SnowRunner devs have a bit of a habit of pulling the most oddly specific trucks out of history to add to this game. In 1990, Ural was beginning to produce the 4322-3, which was in essence a slightly more luxurious version of the base model that would have an ever so slightly higher top speed of 57 miles per hour, 6.1 miles to the gallon, an 8-ton winch, and an adjustable driver's seat as well as an auxiliary heater. But most notably, a 234 horsepower air-cooled diesel V8. In 1991, the Soviet Union fell, and with it, the deal that had been brokered to produce the air-cooled V8s. Only 405 of the engines were ever made, and even less of them found their way into the 43223. It's my personal headcanon that the Voron D in-game is based off of this obscure version of the 4322. Only because of this picture on trucksplanet.com, where the only 4322 with any kind of side decals is labeled as one of the 4322-3s. And the Voron D's unique paint jobs sorta kinda look like it. It also does have some levers to adjust the driver's seat, but it's not the case ultimately, because in getting the free cam under the truck and around the grille, it's modeled with a radiator, so as much as I want this to be the case, it most likely isn't. After a bit of a rough journey, including rolling the truck and needing to be rescued by the Step 310 again because I approached the mountain at a strange angle, I finally arrived at the northernmost research base. I wonder what it is they're studying out here. What they could possibly be trying to learn, or maybe trying to keep hidden. But I'm not paid to ask questions. I'm paid to haul, and I have to take the shed here back to the main research base. The trail up here was tricky. It was a winding rocky trail with one exceptionally tricky hairpin that there's no way the shed was surviving if I took it that way, so I have to find an alternate route. One thing I can't avoid, though, is the completely ice-covered canyon that nearly had me stranded on my way in. I hope that without chains I can still get out. I do not want to have to bring a scout up here to get me out. But then I also realized a pretty big oversight. The Azov 6-4 loaded me up last time, and our onboard crane is not even close to strong enough to pick this thing up. Guess I'm going to have to give dragging it a try. And I'm going to try and keep my trailer, but I'm completely prepared to ditch it if I have to. Let's explore the Voron's in-game model a bit to see if there's anything interesting of note. For the exterior, these holes on the side of the hood are just straight up intakes, which I think look really cool. Obviously that's where the snorkel comes out of, but when there's no snorkel, that's just the intake hole, and I can't explain why, but I think that just looks really cool. These odd things on the fenders, they're not feelers, because the side mirrors stick out farther than they do. They're not wide-angle mirrors because they're way too small. I have no idea what they are, and if you do, let me know. I noticed the driver's side has a step to get out of the truck, but the passenger doesn't, just a small hoop way down under the battery box. The interior is fairly standard, not really a lot to go over in here, and not much you wouldn't be able to see from just using the first-person camera. As I said, the seats are modeled with the full rail, including the lever to adjust them, which I just thought was interesting because it would never have been seen. One of the articles I read touted that the 4322 had tiny pedals, like it was a feature. And I mean, yeah, the Voron D has tiny pedals, so that's neat, I guess. Dragging the shed was so much easier than hauling it. It glides across the ground so easily, and since it doesn't have durability, you can be as rough with it as you want. But don't tell the researchers I said that. But with that, the researchers are taken care of, supplied and moved around so they can continue doing whatever it is they're doing. As for the Voron, I'm not quite done with Lake Covd yet, but that's going to wrap up this episode. You know, I didn't really think a whole lot of the Voron D when I first decided to make this video. I just saw it as a pretty standard 6-axle truck that was all too easy to overlook. I don't think I've used it since the very first few contracts I completed in Tamir. With DLC trucks getting added to your garage whenever you start a new game, and the DLC being on sale so frequently that it's pretty much a no-brainer not to buy it, why would you use the Voron D when there's plenty of more exciting options to use? It doesn't have the biggest fuel tank and it sucks down gas. It has no additional options like a roof rack to help keep it going, and it's a bit on the larger side for a 6-axle. Well, it's one of the few Russian trucks that can do the crane, bed, and trailer combo, like I said. And it's also one of the few early game Russian trucks that can do medium logs. It's a really powerful truck to have starting out. The upgraded gearbox gives it full access to all the low gears and high range without having to find any upgrades, as well as a versatile suite of add-ons to make it your all-around workhorse in the early game, so long as you keep it fed. As always with these videos, I've gained a new appreciation for just how rare the Voron D and Ural 43223 trucks are. I know it's just pixels, but I feel an odd sense of pride driving this truck around, like I'm continuing the life of a forgotten part of history. While this may not have been the most informative video like I usually hope for, I hope you found it interesting and maybe gained a new appreciation yourself for this early game workhorse. For the Voron D looking so much like a standard modern day truck, I didn't expect information on it to be so scarce, so I apologize for that. If you know any additional information about this truck, drop it in a comment and I'll pin it for others to see. That's all for now, guys. I'll see you in the next one.